Hey, hey, hey. This is Brittany Geneva, episode 5 of Mindful Musings. You'll see it's been a couple of weeks since I did the last episode. I think again as I'm constantly trying to figure out where to, build some consistency. Two things. I'm going to start putting these out on Thursdays instead of Wednesdays. And I'm going to start doing them every 2 weeks just because I think that's going to be a little bit easier for me to maintain and eventually work my way up to once a week. But every 2 weeks on Thursday, look for the next episode. So thanks, guys. This is episode 5. I really appreciate those of you who have shared on social media, tagged me, encouraged people to listen to the podcast. That's so nice. I'm so thankful that anybody actually cares to do that. Um, so this episode, I want to talk about something that I've been seeing a lot in the news about something that's an old things that are old topics but coming up in new ways. So one is I saw a Washington Post piece recently about this idea of ghosting. Obviously, we know that ghosting is something that comes from dating. You're dating somebody or, you've been texting and calling and then suddenly they disappear on you. And then, but now that's sort of evolving past being just a dating thing and it's becoming an employment thing. So the story had a lot of examples of people who ghosted in one of several ways. Either they actually had a job and they just up and left, like no 2 weeks notice, no, any type of those traditional ways that you exit a company. They just didn't come back the next day. Or ghosting during an interview process where maybe they were interviewing with somebody and it was time for the next step of the interview and they just didn't respond, or they were somewhere along in the process and just stopped responding to the recruiter or hiring manager or whatever. So that's the first thing. The second thing is a story I read in Vox about how, obviously we know just from our personal experience, as you get older, the number of friends you have in your circle gets smaller and smaller. There are fewer people who you would actually call friends. Maybe when you were in college or high school, everybody you knew was your friend. But when you're 30, you're like, I got about 6 friends. Okay. They talking about, oh, we can FaceTime with 30 people. I don't have 29 other people to call, So that idea that, obviously as you get older, you lose friends, but why is that? And this article basically said the reason why is because as we get older, people tend to become more flaky. If it's, somebody has invited you out to dinner or out to drinks or over to the house and you say you're going to go, but then at the last minute, you say you can't make it. And it becomes this ongoing loop of trying to reschedule the same coffee 12 times, and folks just say you don't want to go. So and basically the article was saying if you are an adult and you're feeling like, gosh, I wish I had more friends, the article was saying stop being so flaky. So i I read these things back to back, just random things that I saw on Twitter, on social media. And I'm like, what is going on in 2018 and in society at large that makes people feel like it's okay to not be a person of your word? I am always dumbfounded and shocked by the number of people I know who are perfectly fine not being people of their word. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Why do people do that? I wouldn't, it never even, I would be so weighed down with guilt if I said to somebody, I am going to be there or I am going to do this. And I know that they were looking for me, especially if it's somebody I like, somebody who is either already a good friend to me or somebody who I think we could be friends. And the fact that I would just up and be like, JK, that's so disrespectful. It's rude. It's disrespectful of their time. Perfect example. A few weeks ago I had got invited to, so actually this is an example in two different ways. So I had got invited to a holiday party, ugly sweater party here in DC. And I was like, oh, can I bring a plus one? And the host was like, sure. And so then I hit up a girl who, I have, we met just a few months ago, but she's also from Atlanta. And I just feel like, she could be a good friend to me. Like we're both, relatively new to DC. So like, like we should try to bond and we should see if I can make a new friend here. So I invited her to come with me, and we were all set to go. And that day I really felt very shitty, like I was trying to like sleep it off, and like maybe by the time it's time to go to this party I'll feel better, but the bitch was tired. And I just was like, I don't know, I just was feeling really bad. But I said to myself two things. One, the best way to never get an invite again is to flake on an invite. Like, if you don't want any invites, flake on or decline invites. And that's a perfect way to make sure you'll never get another one. And as a person who wants to make more friends in DC, I can't afford to do that. I'm like, if I get invited somewhere, I'm going to go unless it like truly is an emergency. Right. So that's one. I didn't want to flake on the host of that party who invited me to it. And two, I didn't want to flake on my friend who I invited as my plus one. She was getting ready. She was on her, she was the whole day probably, like looking forward to it, and had picked out her ugly sweater and all that. And if I had called her and been like, never mind, I'm not going to go, it's not like she could go without me because she was my plus one. So on both sides, I just sucked it up and was like, I'm tired, but I'm going to go to this party anyway, so that A, I can maintain goodwill with the host of the party, and B, so I can maintain goodwill for the person I invited. And that is a mature way to think. Like, that's not being, people say, oh, self care is feeling free to turn down invitations. I disagree. Self care is, feeling free to flake. No, self care is when you look ahead and you say, I know I'm doing too much right now, so let me plan some time in my life where I kick back or I take it easy. Self care is not being a flaky bitch. Like, don't do that. Stop doing that. Like, I just don't. I'm really taken aback, and I really dislike the culture that is being created, that is enabled by technology and enabled by texting and all these ways that you can communicate with people without seeing and hearing them. So then it makes it easier for you to feel detached and say, never mind, I don't want to maintain my commitment. But that's not okay. I don't like the fact that it seems to just becoming so acceptable to be flaky and to ghost. Like, I can remember when I lived in New York, I had met this guy on Tinder. Oh, the one who I told y'all about, the one who I feel like is low key stalking me. Anyways, maybe I should have ghosted him. But anyways, so we met on Tinder and we had been texting, and he said, I'm going to take you out on whatever day. And then the same day he said, never mind, can we reschedule? And it was like very, like relatively soon before the outing, like maybe just a few hours before. So at first I was just going to not write back. At first I was just going to be like, nope. But I said, you know what? A, I am a very good communicator, so I need to communicate. B, he needs to know so that he don't do this again. This is BS. So I wrote him and I said, so I actually do not want to continue to go out or communicate because I really don't like the flakiness that you just displayed. And to me, if you want to go out, you'll make it work, or you will actually reschedule in a more timely manner, not just a few hours before. So I let him know, this is when we not going to be continuing, and this is why. And then he was like, oh my God, wait, no, please. And he found a way to make the original time and date work, which means that he was probably doing that because he was tired. Oh man, I don't feel like going home from work and having to change my clothes into something nice. Some bullshit excuse. And I held him accountable and was like, you're not just going to fucking flake on me and I'm going to act like that's okay, because it was too easy. It was too easy for him to be like, okay, just kidding, we can go on the original date. Girl, that means there was nothing truly in the way of you doing this except for your little convenience. I'm like, why do we do that? Why do we feel like we owe nothing to anyone if it's inconvenient for us? God forbid we be tired. Look, you be setting dates with folks weeks in advance, and then the time comes and you're tired. And you know what? You're always going to be tired. Every day there's a reason to be tired. Every day there's a reason to say no to something, but you can't just keep giving into that. And then you will look up and be 30, 35, 40 and not have no friends. Don't do that. There was another friend of mine who, oh my God, like I love him to death. I really love him as a human being, but he's flaky as fuck. Like, so flaky. And he would tell me, he would go get to the point of being like, can't wait to see you, like really bigging up our date, you know? And then just, I didn't make it. Or sometimes just ghost and flake, like didn't make it and didn't tell me why. And so one day I was like, what in the world is wrong with you? Why do you keep doing this? And he was like, honestly, Brittany, I just have a really hard time saying no. I just have a really hard time like declining things that I know I should decline. And I'm like, okay, I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate the fact that you want to please people, but it is far, far, far worse for you to flake on our outing than from the beginning to just say, I can't do it. It's okay to just say, I can't do it. Now, no, as I said in the beginning, know that if you keep telling someone you can't do it, they're going to stop inviting you. So if you're okay with that, then by all means, but just know that if you keep declining an invite, the invites will stop. They will stop. But if you have to decline an invite for whatever reason and it truly is I just don't feel like it, because you really are just that tired, just say no. Just just say no. Just say no. Like, please. Ooh, I just I care. And at first I used to think like, am I doing too much? Because I would be in situations where I really don't feel like going somewhere. And it's like taking a lot of effort to get to somewhere or see somebody. But I would do it anyway. And I would ask myself, like, girl, are you doing too much? Would this person do that for you? Would they overcome tiredness just to come to your function? And even if the answer is no, even if that particular person wouldn't, I think that I have built like goodwill and good karma generally, because I really am there for people. Like when people ask me to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be there. I'm going to show up. If you're hosting something, I'm going to come through. And I look at even the fact of, when I quit my job 3 months ago, I have just had people calling me, offering me opportunities. I haven't even really been pitching myself, but I've had people coming to me and saying, Brittany, I thought about you. Would you be interested in XYZ? And I think some of that is a result of me being a consistent person in their life and coming through for them and being around when people ask me to be around. And now it's coming back to me like in a positive way. So I think, we just really have to stop looking at being a person of your word, showing up when you said you were going to show up, speaking and closing out a situation as opposed to just ghosting. We need to stop looking at all of that as just a shrug. That's just the way it is now. And I think we should really aspire to be more responsible to other people in terms of respect, in terms of giving them what we would want for ourselves, and challenge ourselves to stop leaning on the ways that we communicate now as excuses for enabling us to not be as good to others. Back in the day, if you had a date with somebody and you weren't going to show up, you had to call them on the phone. You had to call them and have a voice to voice conversation that said, hey, I know I was supposed to meet you for dinner, but I'm not going to be able to make it. Or you had to actually stop by and see them somewhere and tell them face to face. And if you have to do that, that's going to make you think twice about ghosting, because you're like, shit, I might be able to see the disappointment on the other person's face or hear the disappointment in their voice. And now, if all you have to do is shoot a quick text, or all you have to do is, send a DM and say, "Oh, I'm not going to make it," or even if you just don't say anything and you see that they call you, all you got to do is just decline or ignore the call. So now it's just so easy to be detached. But like, what kind of goodwill is that producing for yourself? You're gonna be old and alone because everybody's gonna be like, this is a flaky person that I can't rely on or call on. Or if I know that if we could be having a great conversation and they're gonna say all this, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this, and I know that they're not gonna follow through. So I just, I hate for this whole episode to be me like scolding and being like shaking my finger like, do better. But it is a little bit of that because I really, I cannot tell you, even since I've lived in DC, I have like, so I, judge me for this if you want to, or think badly of me if you want to. But I really miss like having gay BFFs. Like when I was in Atlanta and when I was in New York, I had like my go to gays. We hang out all the time, talk all the time. And now they live in LA and or back in New York. And I just like don't have any gays that I can call anymore. And I miss them. So every time I meet like a cool gay guy, I get kind of excited. Like, maybe this will be my new gay BFF, like I miss it. I miss the energy. So there are two guys in particular that I met like at different occasions. And the first time we hung out, it was like we hit it off. It was such a good vibe. I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, let me be cool, let me not act too eager, like I don't want them to know how excited I am about our potential, like, you know, friendship that could be forming. But, I was excited, and we had texted, and again, in both cases, texted like, okay, let's set up another meeting. So in one case, it was like we had like a mutual friend who was having a birthday party, and we were like, oh, this is great. We'll go to the party. We'll hang out there. Maybe we'll do something else, just the two of us afterwards. Like this will be amazing. He even was like texting me an hour before, like, I hope you're getting ready. I hope you're about to be there. I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. What's up? So I get there. That man never showed up, never called me to say why he didn't show up. And then when I hit him up, like, is everything okay? Because I thought maybe something went wrong. He didn't write me back till the next day. Oh, my bad. I drank too much. Girl, if you don't. Ugh. And so then in the other situation, we had actually hung out a few times. Like we had we had probably went to brunch or went to drinks 3 or 4 times. And I was definitely excited, like, oh man, like we're starting to hang out on a regular basis now. And then I hit him up about something and I never heard back from the man again. And I still haven't heard back from him. So I'm just like, bro, like the level of ghostiness and flakiness, not even in romantic situations. It's just like, oh, like I want to wear a t-shirt that says, if you are flaky, don't talk to me. Like I need you to go all the way to the left, please. Whew. So I think we should all challenge ourselves to just say no if the answer is no. But if we have said yes to someone, to really try to follow through on our word and understand the importance of building that goodwill with people by being there for them. I just keep thinking of all these examples, like my good friend, rest in peace, Michael Feeney, just one of the most wonderful people I ever met. He passed away in 2016, I believe. Yeah, 2016. And one of the things that everybody said about him, like everybody who knew him, they were all like, Mike was so reliable. And Mike had things going on. He had medical issues. Mike had a lot going on, and he still kept his word all the time. And like he had two funeral services, and they were both packed to capacity in huge churches. And the reason why he left such a legacy, and the reason why so many people came to pay their respects, was because he was good to people and he was there for people. when I lived in New York, I didn't in my second apartment, I didn't have a doorman or a concierge. So if I got a package, they were just going to leave it outside, or if it was too big, they were going to send it back to the sorting facility. And I'm like, ooh, child, I can't go all the way out to Brooklyn to get that. So I had asked him, because I couldn't work from home that day. I was like, can you go sit in my apartment and wait for the package to come? And he was like, sure. He was like, absolutely. He went there, he received my package, he like took it out of the box and like started sorting the pieces so it would be easier to put together. Like, he was amazing. Like, he always was there when you needed him, and he was so reliable and dependable, and he had every excuse not to be. So I was just, that's always one of the things that I'll remember the most about him. So when you are a person of your word and a person who can be trusted and a person who is dependable and reliable, that actually leaves a legacy. Like, people will actually remember that about you if they don't remember anything else. So I just think it's so important to be more mindful of keeping our word to each other and being good and responsible to each other, because it matters. It really does matter in like your future and the way people are going to look at you and the way people are going to think about you. Um so that's all I had to say about that. I just needed to get that off my heart, honey, off my chest, cuz I am real disappointed with the way things appear to be going. But that is episode 5 of Mindful Musings. Please, if you have thoughts, if you have comments, if you think I'm full of shit, whatever, hit me up. I'm on social media, Brittany_Geneva on all the things. And I hope you'll come back for episode 6. Bye.